In a post-apocalyptic world, a war breaks the seal that imprisons the savage mutants that terrorized the Earth hundreds of years ago. Facing a common enemy, can humanity win once more? Let's find out in the movie. After the Ice Age, a machine from outer space came to Earth. Its only purpose is to change every man into a mutant. A mutant is a killing species that attacks without mercy. Then, they will take their victims to the machine to turn them into a mutant as well. A warrior named Nietzsche united different tribes to seal off the machine beneath the earth after they suffered much loss and death. In the mountains of Eastern Europe, the descendants of Nietzsche, called the Brotherhood, kept the knowledge about the machine alive. They put all of their knowledge into a sacred book named the Chronicles. The scene changes to the year 2707. Four big corporations named Capital, Bauhaus, Mishima, and Imperial rule the world. The Capital rules the West, while Mishima is in the East. On the other hand, Bauhaus holds Europe, while the Imperial governs Africa. These corporations always fight each other for the little resources left on Earth. One day in Europe, the Bauhaus Corporation readies itself for another attack on the Capital. Without any of them knowing, the machine patiently awaits beneath them. It's a rainy night when the Bauhaus and Capital are currently exchanging bullets and explosives. As the Bauhaus forces make their charge, the commander of Capital forces named Nathan looks for a soldier named Hunter. Holding the dog tags of his fallen comrades, Hunter sees that many of his men are severely injured, if not dead. The commander talks to him, and they know they are at a huge disadvantage against the enemies. Waiting for the right opportunity, they strike at the Bauhaus forces, unintentionally digging up the seat of the machine. As the battle goes on, the enemy soldiers throw gas grenades at the Capital forces, taking down some of the unfortunate soldiers who didn't manage to put on gas masks. Afterward, Nathan is shot, but Hunter saves him before the enemy finishes him off. The commander then asks Hunter to look after his family if ever he didn't get out of war alive. The Capital forces continue fighting, even though they are outnumbered. At last, the Bauhaus soldiers manage to reach their trench and start taking them out one by one. However, as the battle continues, the seal of the machine eventually breaks. At this time, the mutants start resurfacing and attacking both the Capital and Bauhaus forces. As silence suddenly fills the air, Hunter and his team see the mutilated parts of their comrades floating in the flood. Going out of their trench, they see more mutilated bodies everywhere. Then, they encounter the Bauhaus forces, and the two teams stand their guard against each other. Hunter and the enemy captain accuse each other of brutally murdering their comrades, but they immediately realize that they have common enemies when the mutants start attacking their comrades around. The mutants are strong, fast, and hard to kill with small weapons. The soldiers try their best to escape while fending off the mutants. Nathan uses a big gun to allow his men to escape. Unfortunately, this costs his life. The scene changes to the snowy mountains where a young boy delivers a message to the Reverend of the Brotherhood named Samuel. After knowing that the mutants are back, Samuel goes to the room where the Chronicles is. He reads the book to the members of the Brotherhood and reveals to them that the occurrence of war wakes up the machine. The Reverend adds that the mutants are bringing their victims into the machine to transform them. As their terror expands around the globe, once more, even the four big corporations cannot do anything to fight the mutants off. But there is a prophecy that says another Nietzsche will rise and save humanity from the disaster. Samuel then travels across the world to talk to the four corporations about fulfilling the prophecy. In a tower elsewhere, a man named Constantine tells the Reverend that they have to evacuate all of the key personnel to Mars. There, they can properly begin to reassess the dire situation that the Earth is in. However, Samuel doesn't want to abandon Earth and the remaining surviving citizens. He also points out that after the mutants capture the Earth, they will eventually go to Mars. Slamming the Chronicles at the table, he insists that there is still hope. He asks Constantine for a ship and 20 soldiers, but the man is doubtful about what these little numbers can do against thousands of enemies. Samuel says that with this little number, he can go into the machine and destroy it from the inside. He is convincing them to have faith in humanity. Just outside the tower, a mother and her son are running through the city away from the mutants. Holding tightly onto their evacuation tickets, they run as fast as they can to the evacuation point. Unfortunately, they drop one of their tickets, and the mother is prohibited from entering the airship. And to make matters worse, the airship that her son boarded collides with another airship. The ship then crashes into other civilians on the ground. All of this is seen by Samuel in the tower. Constantine tells him that he should leave immediately because the mutants will come soon. But Constantine himself decides to stay. He also adds that when the new generation makes a new world, they will not need the old generation, which is only prone to make the same mistake again. Before Samuel leaves, Constantine gives him his ship, but it cannot hold 20 people, so he will need to adjust his plans. Then, he hands Samuel evacuation tickets, saying that he can use them to convince people to join his mission. Their conversation is interrupted when a soldier arrives and notices that the tower's defense has fallen. Constantine says he will not leave and orders his men to take Samuel where he wants to go. Right after the airship leaves, the mutants reach the room where Constantine is. Elsewhere, Hunter goes to Nathan's house. Adelaida, Nathan's wife, invites him inside for tea. There, Hunter reveals to her that her husband went missing in action. Hearing this, Adelaida breaks down and tells Hunter that she dreamt of Nathan. In her dream, she saw her husband was still alive, but the mutants got him. Hunter consoles Adelaida as she cries, worrying about her daughter, who hasn't known yet. Afterward, Hunter goes to a bar. When he is clearing the dog tags of his fallen comrades, Samuel approaches him. Samuel says that there is no chance of survival for them in this mission, but this is their only opportunity to save humanity and the world. But Hunter doesn't care about humanity or the world anymore. Knowing that he might decline the offer, Samuel shows Hunter the evacuation pass and leaves him to think about his offer. Looking at the evacuation pass, Hunter remembers Nathan's will that he must protect his family when he died. Because of this, Hunter accepts Samuel's offer and gives the passes to Adelaida and her daughter. As expected, the evacuation pass helps Samuel recruit enough soldiers for the mission. In exchange for securing their family's seats on Mars, the soldiers partake in the mission, except for a soldier named John, who joins the team without accepting the ticket. After the recruitment, Sam's suicide squad now consists of Hunter, John, Jesus, Juba, Valerie, and Maximilian. He brings them to the snowy mountains and shares with the team the summary of the Chronicles. Then, one member of the Brotherhood orients them on the mission. In the ruins of Imperial City, there is an old cathedral. They will go through the cathedral's catacombs to reach the subterranean tunnels. After that, they will travel along the tunnels to find the machine. By using a device that ripped from the machine before it was sealed, they will blow up the machine from the inside. However, the device can only be detonated mechanically by a key, and they have to find it in the machine. John raises concern about the mutants and asks if the Chronicle states a way to kill the mutants. At this time, Maximilian takes them to the mutant they captured before. According to him, small bullets have no effects on mutants because they don't feel pain or shock. Only by causing massive severe damage like explosives can kill them. However, while Maximilian is explaining to the team, the mutant breaks free of its chain. Luckily, a female member of the Brotherhood named Severian manages to take it down by fatally wounding the mutant using a sword. As Hunter carefully approaches the mutant, it begs him for help. That is when the team realizes that the mutants retain some of their consciousness but cannot fully control themselves. Hunter asks Samuel if the mutant says anything else, but Samuel says it only asks for forgiveness. John then gives Samuel a list of supplies they will be needing for the mission. Later that night, the Brotherhood celebrates one last mass before Samuel, Severian, and the team go on the mission. The next day, each member of the team is given a sword. After finishing the final preparation for the ship, they all head out. Inside the airship, Valerie asks the guys who they gave their tickets to, but no one answers her. Juba returns the question to Valerie instead, to which she answers that she gave the tickets to her two little kids. Hearing this, Juba says that he gave his ticket to a beautiful woman he slept with before. Meanwhile, Hunter goes to the pilot to talk to him. Just then, he discovers that the ship's fuel can only last for a one-way trip. So, even for the pilot and the crew of the ship, it is also a suicide mission for them. Then, all of a sudden, the co-pilot spots a ship approaching their way. The pilot changes the course of the airship, but the bogey ship changes its course as well, clearly planning to crash into them on purpose. Zooming on the bogey airship, the pilot is horrified to discover that it is driven by a mutant. With no other options, the pilot orders the co-pilot to shoot down the bogey. He tries to take it down, but it manages to crash into them. Samuel immediately orders the team to get into the escape pod. When everyone is inside, Maximilian tries to release the pod, but it's not working. Hunter wants to go outside to manually release it, but the pilot sacrifices himself to do it. After some time, they open the chute, but they're too heavy and it rips apart. With only one backup chute left, Juba tells them to wait for the right time before releasing it again. When they crash into a building and slow down a little, they release the backup chute. The chute helps them land less roughly, but the crash of the building wounds John's legs severely. John tells them to go without him and asks Hunter for a bomb. A little later, John takes out himself inside the pod. The team then carefully continues their way to the cathedral. When they see a group of refugees running through the city, Hunter follows them to see where they are going. At this time, he discovers that some sort of corrupt paramilitary is offering a ride to Mars in exchange for high prices. However, he doesn't notice that a mutant is already watching over him. Seeing other members follow Hunter, Samuel tells him to let the situation go. But Hunter still makes his way to the crowd and talks to the soldiers. He orders them to let the women and children board the ship first, and then the men if there are still spaces left. But soldiers don't want to follow him, so Hunter cold-bloodedly shoots the soldier in front of his partner. Scared, the remaining soldier follows Hunter's order. Afterward, he goes back to the team to continue traveling. As they walk, Maximilian threatens to shoot Hunter if he delays their mission again. It's already nighttime when the team arrives at the cathedral. They go straight to the catacomb to make their way to the lost city, which was buried over 500 years ago. As they reach the city, they proceed to a skyscraper and go down beneath it. Juba volunteers to guard them from the top, while the others descend to the skyscraper through the elevator shaft. As they descend, they run out of rope. Samuel thinks that something is not right. Checking the chronicles, he is trying to find which floor they should go, but he accidentally pulls the quick release lever of his gear. Hunter manages to catch him before he falls, yet Samuel's chain breaks off. Luckily, he lands on the floor where they are supposed to land after all. However, as he lights up the flare, a mutant attacks him. Hunter quickly gets down to help him. Using the lamp, they set the mutant on fire, and Hunter decapitates it. Hearing the commotion below them, Maximilian drops a grenade. Severian catches it and throws it on the ground floor, killing the mutants there. As the others land on the floor, they fight the attacking mutants all together. Meanwhile, Juba is also being attacked and a mutant sneaks on his back, cutting the elevator rope. He manages to kill the mutant, but the elevator is descending fast. As the mutants group in the doorway, the elevator suddenly drops on them, causing an explosion. But this is not enough to kill the mutants. Luckily, before Juba succumbs to his death, he detonates a grenade and kills them. However, although the team survives, they are trapped. When Maximilian is putting out the rocks, Valerie approaches to help. She asks to whom he gave his ticket. Maximilian then shows her the ticket that he pulls from his pocket. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Samuel and Hunter talk. Samuel believes that they will succeed because God is on their side. Just then, he pours his water on the ground, and the spill goes into a hole. Seeing this, Hunter and Jesus clear the ground of rocks and find a vent. Going through it, the group ends up in the tunnel where they see the mutants dragging their victims. And to Hunter's surprise, Nathan is one of them. Samuel points out that Nathan is just one life compared to the others that they need to save. But Hunter doesn't listen to him and parts ways with the group to save his friend. Maximilian wants to stop him by pointing a gun at him, but he just lets him go eventually. After Hunter leaves, the remaining members continue the mission. On the other side, Hunter is carefully stalking the mutant and Nathan. Finding the right opportunity, he shoots the rock above the mutant and it goes straight through its face. Seeing Hunter, Nathan quickly asks about his family, to which Hunter assures him that they're safe. Then, Hunter picks him up and finds a way to escape. However, Nathan's wounds are severe and he's losing a lot of blood. With no other choice, Hunter has to mercifully kill his friend to let him finally rest. Going back to the team, they are making their way to the machine through a steep walkway. When Maximilian slips, it alerts the mutants below them. Severian then hangs herself to get the bomb from him. After handing it to her, Maximilian tries to reach for Jesus' hand, but he falls to the ground. He starts fighting the mutants, but he's outnumbered. Samuel orders the team to go on, but Valerie declines to leave Maximilian behind. She jumps down and helps Maximilian fight the mutants. When Jesus follows down, Samuel and Severian join the fight as well. Unfortunately, the white phosphorus gun that Jesus is using overloads and explodes in his hands. Maximilian, who is near Jesus at the time of the explosion, gets caught up and suffers from burning. Distracted, Valerie doesn't notice the mutants and is taken down. Samuel is also stabbed in the chest twice. After a while, Hunter arrives and he finds the mutilated body of Jesus. A mutant creeps on him, but he manages to take it down after Severian alerts him. According to Severian, the mutants have dragged other members to the machine. Desperate, Hunter picks up the pages of the book scattered on the ground. He tells Severian to read it, but she doesn't know how to. With no other options or ideas on what to do, Hunter and Severian go to the machine and then set up a chain of grenades. At this time, they see Maximilian and Valerie being dragged into a hole. Severian sets off the explosion to block the tunnel, and Hunter attacks the mutant, saving their two teammates. Looking at the hole, they finally see the machine that is transforming a human into a mutant. After thinking of a plan, Hunter and Maximilian hold the rope while Severian and Valerie descend to the machine. However, the mutants are starting to get their way through the rocks. Just then, Maximilian walks into the tunnel and sets off another explosion. The impact sends Hunter down the hole, making him accidentally let go of the two ladies. Luckily, Valerie and Severian land safely on the platform. However, Hunter lands in the machine. It starts operating on Hunter, but he resists and fights back. Luckily for him, the process is not yet complete, so Hunter manages to stop his transformation halfway. He immediately catches up to Severian and Valerie. As he begins setting up the device, the ladies fight off against the mutants attacking them. However, even after setting up the device and the detonator, nothing is happening. Getting the pages of the Chronicles from Severian, Hunter tries to find a way to make the device work, but Valerie reaches her limit and gets pushed down by a mutant, falling to her death. On the other hand, the mutated Samuel appears and kills Severian. Afterward, Hunter and the mutated Samuel fight. Hunter uses the dog tags of his fallen comrades as brass knuckles and beats up Samuel. But Samuel gets a hit on Hunter and he lands next to Severian's sword. Seeing that her sword matches the key that is needed to activate the device, Hunter stabs Samuel and pushes the sword through the detonator. Then, he turns the sword and the machine starts to operate. As it turns, the device is not a bomb, but the part of the machine that allows it to fly. The dying Samuel tells Hunter to jump and have faith in God. Hearing this, Hunter jumps blindly, not knowing what or where he will land. But miraculously, he lands on the water. The machine then flies to outer space. After resurfacing, Hunter lies down in tiredness. The movie ends with the machine taking its course to Mars.